Please give a rousing Vacation.com welcome to Peter Greenberg.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Steve, for that nice introduction. I thought I'd share with you this morning a sort of a frontline report on what's going on with planes, trains, automobiles, cruise lines, and of course the travel professionals in this room. So let's just start out with some of the good news, some of which of course you already know. Travel is coming back big and bigger than ever. The numbers are actually quite staggering. 1 billion travelers last year crossed an international border. It'll be 1.2 billion by the end of next year. Hotels, their rates are up, their revenues are up, even hotel building is up. Usually those two things don't happen at the same time. Airline revenues, here's an oxymoron, but guess what? Airlines are making money. An industry that hasn't earned back its capital investment since the Wright brothers, that's not a joke, that's true, is actually making money. Airlines are full. I don't think anybody in this room has been on a plane that's been empty ever in the last 2 years. And in fact, the airlines have flown more full than since 1945. Now, that concludes the good news. How did the airlines make their money? Well, some of you, of course, know my favorite topic, ancillary fees. The airlines, in fact, made over $1.2 billion last year just on ticket cancellation fees alone. But that's not how they got money. That's not how they grew so big. Do you know how they grew so big and how much money they made? They shrunk. That's right, they cut capacity. Think about this number. Last year, the airlines in this country permanently removed 3,800 flights from their schedules. Gone. Now, if you're a city like Cincinnati, Cleveland, Memphis, St. Louis, Kansas City, Milwaukee, Ontario, I could go on, you have a problem because you've been disenfranchised. Mid-sized hubs are no longer considered important by the airlines. Cincinnati used to have 990 departures a day. It's down to 190. This month in Cleveland, United Airlines goes from 270 flights a day to 72. Memphis is down 40%. Ontario, California, you can go bowling in the terminal. St. Louis built an additional runway they don't even use because they thought it was going to get bigger. It's not. Now, in the past, in the old days, and by the way, that was about 3 weeks ago, in the old days, if you were the mayor of one of those cities, confronted with a serious loss of airline service, you would do what? You wouldn't even stop. You'd go running as fast as you could to Southwest Airlines. And you would beg them to fly to your city. And in the old days, guess what? They actually did. It was called the Southwest model. Southwest came in, and in many cities, airfares dropped 43%, competition increased, everybody was happy, and life went on. In the year 2013, how many new routes did Southwest Airlines add in their system? Anybody want to guess? How many? 20. Anybody want to guess again? Who said 0? You're wrong. It was minus 16. That's right. And here's the real problem. There's not an airline out there today that's sufficiently capitalized or motivated to fill that lost capacity. So where's it all going? Well, you heard Carolyn talk about China, Brazil, India, and Russia, but she left one out. I'll add that. Can anybody here tell me the largest international airline that flies to more U.S. cities and from more U.S. cities than any other international airline? Who said Korean? You're right. Nobody knows. And they're coming. And they've got money. We talk about the airports I just mentioned. Think about this. We haven't had a new airport in this country open in nearly 20 years. The last new airport that opened in this country was Denver in 1995. And for those people who remember when that airport opened, it was called DIA for another reason. It meant doesn't include airplanes. They've gotten better. Last year, China opened 20. the size of Denver. Think about that. And that's the shift that Carolyn was talking about, even with the cruise lines. They're redeploying. They're going where the money is. Now, where is the money? It's not just in Asia, it's in the Gulf. I just did a piece for CBS News on the 3 Gulf carriers that are changing the face of global transportation: Emirates, Etihad, and Qatar. Now, most Americans, let's face it, are the most geographically ignorant people on the face of the planet. Qatar, they don't even know where Queens is. It's like the couple who comes back on their vacation. Where'd you go? We went to Aruba. Where's that? I don't know, we flew. Okay. You're laughing, but you know them. So let's acknowledge that geographic ignorance, but now let's really acknowledge an economic reality. Those 3 airlines are changing the face of travel. They're adding, think about this. We talk about Southwest taking away 16 routes last year. These 3 airlines are adding 1 new route every 8 days. How many people here have flown on the A380? Anybody? Couple? Okay. Emirates has the largest order in history, $162 billion on new airplanes last year. Largest in history. But you want to know something? How many A380s are they actually operating today? Now, Qantas has a couple, and Air France has a couple, Korean has a couple, right? Singapore has a couple. Emirates is operating 51 of them. But here's the interesting thing. Where are they going? How do you fill those planes? Would you believe that Emirates is actually flying not 1, but 2 flights a day between Dubai and Munich on A380s? They're even flying an A380 from Dubai to Vienna. Who's going? Now you're going to find out. Nobody's flying to Dubai, and nobody's flying from Dubai. They're all flying through it. That's the deal. These are the super hubs. The same thing with Doha in Qatar, and the same thing with Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates and Etihad. So when you see what's going on, you're also seeing where they're competing and how they're changing their rate structure. Because remember, as the airlines cut capacity, for the first time in their history, they're not only controlling their inventory, they're not only controlling their routes, they're controlling their pricing. Airfares right now are up 14% over last year. That is huge, and that's a little scary, whether you're selling or buying. Interestingly enough, it also means the demise of some flag carriers. I saw a story recently that made me laugh, but maybe not. It said that Alitalia, now you know what Alitalia stands for, don't you? All land in Tokyo, all luggage in Athens. I have them for every airline, it's okay. That Alitalia was about to be, this is how bad it's gotten, that Alitalia was about to be bailed out by the Italian post office. Be sure to mail me when that happens, okay? But guess what? That really didn't happen. Guess who's about to buy Alitalia? Etihad, the airline of Abu Dhabi. It's an amazing buying spree. So you have this development happening in the Gulf. In this country, airlines are no longer fighting for traffic they never wanted in the first place. It's no longer about market share, it's about yield. American Airlines right now flies to 7 cities in Brazil, and they make more money on those 7 flights than they make in their entire domestic route network combined, because they're all paying for it. They're all paying full price. JetBlue, think they're a low-cost carrier? They're flying to 3 cities in Colombia. Who knew? And yet, our domestic travel experience on airlines would lend some people the thought that U.S. Airlines branding should be, we're not happy until you're not happy. You've flown, I see, yes. At many conferences that some of you have also attended, they try to define the word luxury. I'm sort of sick of people having entire conferences on the word luxury. It's a little silly. It's like the Supreme Court trying to define pornography. Remember what the Supreme Court said? We can't define it, but we know it when we see it. That's what the Supreme Court said. Well, the same thing applies to luxury, except for one additional thought I will share with you, and that is my definition of luxury is when you get to keep your options open. That's it. And yet our flying experience is all about the options we no longer have. So it's not very luxurious. Now, where do you guys come in? It's easy. You come in at something we've lost the art of in this country. It's called the art of the conversation. I'll give you a story. My staff, you should never, ever let technology take precedence over common sense. Can we agree on that? If a hotel puts a kiosk in the lobby and calls that progress, I don't stay there. I like to have a conversation. That's where relationships start. That's when you actually learn something. My staff is all under the age of 35, and if they were sitting where you are right now, they'd text me. That's not what I had in mind. One day, this is to give you an idea of where we are in this country. One day, I had to get one of our engineers, this is a Thursday afternoon, from Los Angeles to New York at the last minute on a one-way ticket. So we already know this is a suicidal reservation. He's not staying over Saturday night. His middle name is not Murray. He doesn't have a snowmobile. He qualifies for nothing. But my staff said, oh, we'll book it online. Really? I said, I'll tell you what you do. You go book it online, but don't pay for it. Just get it booked. And then come back in here and tell me what you did. And then we're going to learn a lesson. So they come back 5 minutes later, all happy and proud. We booked them. It's a one-way fare on American Airlines Flight 34 from Los Angeles to New York. One-way fare, the cheapest they could get online was $809. Well, I told you guys, suicidal reservation. So I said, okay, now, new concept, talk to human being. Let's try it. So we made the phone call. We didn't use my double secret special number that I use to American Airlines. We just called the regular Schlepper 800 number. You know that number, 1-800-SCHLEPPER. Come on. So, woman answers the phone, American Airlines. I said, hey, what do you got going tomorrow from Los Angeles to New York? About 8 o'clock in the morning. And she said, oh, well, we have flight 34. In those days, it was a 767. I said, nonstop, yes. How much is the fare? $809. So my staff is smiling at me saying, you see? I said, Here comes the conversation. So I said, tell me something. Do you have a positioning flight tomorrow morning? She said, well, hold on a second. She came back and says, as a matter of fact, we do. I said, what time does that leave? She said, 6:45. So about an hour and 15 minutes earlier. Right. Is it a 767? Yes. Is it nonstop? Yes. Does it go from Los Angeles to JFK? Yes. How much is that fare? $109. Wait, I'm just getting started. Do you know what my staff said to me? Oh, but they're going to charge you $30 to talk to a human being. I said, do the math. I just saved you $600 and... The point is, everybody in this room either survives or fails based on either having or not having a conversation and developing those relationships. The biggest mistake that most Americans make because they're lazy and they act in interest of expediency is thinking that all the available inventory is online. What a joke that is. Yes? And any hotel that tells you you can only get the lowest rates on their website is outright lying to you. It's about having a conversation and developing a relationship. And by the way, that's where you come in again. Whether you have a preferred supplier relationship or you just have a relationship and actually know what you're talking about. You know, if you look at the history of travel agents, it's not a happy history. You were started as a welfare state by the airlines. You were. They didn't have to pay your benefits. They didn't have to pay your salaries. They put a biased computer on your desk and said, go knock yourself out. And that's the way it was for a long time, until Delta showed up with commission caps and forced the bad travel agents out. The lazy travel agents had to leave. The travel professionals in this room, you not only survived, you succeeded because you figured out that beyond a certain price point, you had to have a conversation. You had to talk to people. You had to develop those relationships, and you had to specialize, and you had to have knowledge. And guess what? It's not about being competitive on rate. That's a myth. It's about being competitive on value. And if you're not competitive on value, you lose. Let me give you an example. What are the negative touch points in the travel experience? We can go down a lot of them, right? Starting with the TSA. Wait a minute. Let's celebrate, I'm going to get to that in a second. Let's celebrate a program that actually works. Global entry. Right? How many people have it? How many people love it? You love it. If you don't have it, you better get it, because I don't want to stand in line behind you. That one works. There's another one I just reported on CBS called pre-clearance. Not pre-check, pre-clearance. Most people don't realize it's been around since 1952. It started in Canada, in Ireland, Aruba, the Bahamas, Bermuda, and most recently, Abu Dhabi. And all the US airlines screamed, oh, not fair, not fair, not fair to build this facility there. Really? Here's what the folks in Abu Dhabi did. They beat us at our own game playing by our rules. They went to the US government and said, how about we build a facility, we pay for it ourselves, we build it to your security specs, you bring over your customs agents, we'll do pre-clearance here. It'd be great for our passengers, because who wants to get off a flight after 14 hours in Miami to stand in line for 14 hours? Right? Okay. So the US government said, works for us, they did it. You know what? Works like a charm. There are 1,500 passengers a day who, when they get off the planes in any city in the United States from Abu Dhabi, go home. Or they connect. Their bags actually make it. Oh my God. Why? Because there are no delays on the tarmac and there are no delays at customs. Because there are no customs, they did it there. You should be advocates for pre-clearance in major choke point airports around the world that'll make the travel experience truly a luxury, because you get to keep your options open. In London, in Charles de Gaulle, in Rome, the places where it really needs it, where you have big volumes. No security standards are sacrificed, and it works. Okay, so those are the two that I love. Now let me get started on the one I hate. Pre-check. And let me tell you why. How many people here have qualified for pre-check? Okay, don't applaud yet. In concept and in theory, it's great. You get vetted as a trusted traveler, and now you don't have to walk into the airport naked. You can actually go through there without taking off your jacket, your shoes, taking out your laptop, etc. In concept, it works. And by the way, when it works, it works. Here's the two problems. One, the TSA has made it random, even if you're vetted. So for the last 5 flights I've done, 3 of those flights I was taken out of line saying, I'm sorry, not today. Wait a minute. I'm either a trusted traveler or I'm not. Or they must know something about Wednesday that I don't know. But then it gets worse. Only about 177,000 Americans have qualified for pre-check, which, by the way, makes it pretty good because you're not in a long line. So here's the TSA solution to get other people to join. Pull everybody out of the other line and put them in pre-check. Now you're stuck behind somebody who's taking things out of his pocket that have been in there since 1947. Doesn't work. The TSA shouldn't stand for thousands standing around. Now, it used to stand for taking scissors away. You can pick that one too if you like. But the point is, I believe, and everybody in this room believes, in adequate and effective airport security. We've learned those lessons too hard and too tragically in the past. Nobody doesn't want to support that. But think about this. When you're coming back from an overseas trip, they've been asking the same moronic 3 questions since 1988 that can only be answered by yes or no. And even if English isn't your 5th language, you can be trained to say yes, yes, and no. Here they are. Did you pack the bags yourself? Have they been with you all the time? And did anybody give you anything? Yes, yes, and no, goodbye, right? Any homicide detective will tell you that if you want to get information from somebody, and any investigative reporter will tell you, that you never ask a question that could be answered by yes or no. Because once you get that answer, the conversation ends, it doesn't start. So if I think you killed somebody, I'm not going to say, did you kill him? I'm going to say, hey, what'd you do with the gun? Now, if you answer that question, we have something to talk about. So this isn't about racial profiling or religious profiling. It's about behavioral profiling that the TSA should be doing in doing the same things you do, engaging people in reasonably intelligent conversations. So if I say to you, hey, where are you going today? And you can't answer that question, we have to have another conversation. So you should be advocates to completely promote and celebrate pre-clearance, global entry, and knock on the door of the TSA and ask them when they're going to come out of their coma and realize that pre-check should be done the way it was supposed to be done. But that also applies to something else, because all too often travel professionals are reactive when they should be proactive. There are certain things out there that are buzzwords in the travel industry that you should be rebelling against because your customers are rebelling against them. I'll give you an idea. Remember I said rate versus value? There's a hotel in London. It's called the Athenaeum. They wanted to raise their rates 20 pounds a night, so about $30. And everybody said, oh no, you can't do that. You have to be competitive on rate. And somebody with a brain said, wait a minute, no. Let's identify the negative touch points to our guests and then be competitive on value. What was the negative touch point to their guests? It was the Darth Vader minibar. The reason why I call it the Darth Vader minibar is it's the infrared minibar where if you even come close to the Diet Coke, it charges you. You know exactly what I mean. So you know what they did? They did the unthinkable. They took all the minibars and they threw them out. And they replaced them, talking about going back to the future, with actual refrigerators. And in those refrigerators, they put in every cookie, candy, fruit, soft drink, fruit juice, anything non-alcoholic, jammed all that stuff in there, milk, cookie, everything, and made it free. Raised their room rates 20 pounds a night, and occupancy went up 17%. Everybody in this room goes shopping. We know what a bottle of water costs. When will the hotels wake up and realize we know that $9 is robbery? And the ridiculous part about it is that the revenue managers at hotels who go into orgasmic convulsions over that revenue are engendering ill will that destroys even bigger revenue. I got an email the other day from somebody who was staying at a presidential suite in Hawaii, paying $2,000 a night with a reservation for 7 nights. He checked out after the first night. Why? He was charged a $40 resort fee. Please. I'll give you the best one of all. And by the way, we name names here, okay? I checked in one night to a hotel in Arizona in Scottsdale called The Point. Nice hotel. Now, I don't check my bags. I believe there are 2 kinds of airline bags, carry-on and lost. Are we in agreement? Thank you. So for those of you who know me, you know that I FedEx my bags. If I could FedEx myself, I would, because I'm not on the plane for the food. So I check in with the carry-on bag in my briefcase. I give my credit card to the front desk. They give me my room key. I notice on the corner the bellman is there, who I don't need. His name is Manny. We exchange pleasantries. I go to my room. I'm there. This is the fun part of the story. I'm there to give a speech the next morning to the Hotel Innkeepers of America. Can you smell what's about to happen? I go to the room, watch TV, get up the next morning, take a shower. Under my door is my bill. Now, what's on the bill? The room, the occupancy tax, the let us build your sports stadium tax. Right? Come on. And other taxes. But then it's a subtotal. There's another charge, $10. And you know what that was called? Mandatory tip to bellman. Well, it's 6:30 in the morning. Manny's still on duty. Aha. I call, I get him on the phone. I said, Manny, I came in last night around midnight, right? Remember? Good, great. Manny, what's this? He goes, yeah, I know. I said, Manny, do you even get that money? He goes, no. I said, where does it go? He goes, I don't know. I said, Manny, what are you doing about 8 o'clock this morning? Said, I want you to be my guest at this speech. And, wait, and I want you to invite your general manager. Now remember, I'm speaking to 450 hotel owners who haven't checked out yet, so they haven't seen their bill yet. You want to see 450 really pissed off people? Here it comes. So I tell this story. And I asked Manny in the room where the money went. He couldn't tell me. And all of a sudden, in the back of the room, a hand is waving frantically. It's the general manager. He says, I'm taking it off your bill. I said, no, actually, you're not. Turn around. You're taking it off 450 bills. And he, wait. He said, I can't do that. I said, then you know what? Please leave it on my bill. What are you doing at 8:30 tomorrow morning? He said, why? I said, because I'm holding your bill up on NBC. And I did. The point is, when are we going to get to the point of realizing there's a word called hospitality? And when you nickel and dime people, you destroy the experience they paid to come for in the first place. You know, it's not a difficult situation to use the Athenaeum Hotel as an example to prove that you can raise your rates and people are still happy as long as they don't have to go to their pocket to breathe, right? Remember, it's not a difficult concept to embrace, but when the accountants run the asylum, we all go crazy. And that's got to stop. That's where you come in. Now, you get to come in at one more point, too. What's the one term, and by the way, once I mention this, I know you guys are going to agree with this, but you haven't done anything about it. What's the one term I hate more than anything? It's a symbol that you see in every ad, in every brochure, in every piece of literature. It's the asterisk. What is the asterisk? It's an acknowledgement by the travel industry that they just lied to you. It's an all-inclusive vacation, asterisk. Really? These are all the things that you can't do, won't do, can never do, will never happen. How many people here would go to a resort, a hotel, or even visit a state that marketed itself as an asterisk-free destination? It's branding, because there's pent-up anger out there. People don't make money when you stay at a hotel once. They make money when you tell your friends and come back. This brings me to the point of word of mouth and social media. Now, I know we all love the internet. We all love Wi-Fi. I'm one of those addicted people as well. However, when I say that technology should never take precedence over common sense, you shouldn't mortgage your conversation to social media. And the reason for that is it doesn't necessarily lead you in the direction you want to go. Think about this. Why do people book online? They book online because they can do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. They can do it in their bathroom. They don't have to talk about anything to anybody else. It disconnects them from community, and they can't even have a conversation. And if something goes wrong, who are they going to call? Ghostbusters? No, you can't do that. Well, the same thing happens when you have dependence on social media. Let me give you an example. I have a new television show on public television. It's on every week. It's called The Travel Detective. Think of it as the 60 Minutes and Dateline of travel. Many of the things I'm talking about now are on the show, graphically. It's what we did. We went out, we did this intentionally. We went out and we wrote 20 of the most over-the-top, ridiculous, hyperbolic, crazily positive reviews on 20 different hotels on TripAdvisor. Hotels we'd never even stayed at. Okay? Every word we used ended in ST. Best, greatest, most, finest, loveliest. We threw a couple of Pampers in there. We inserted a few Paradises. All those buzzwords, right? Guess what? They ran every one of them. What does that tell you about our dependence on social media? Where's the vetting? Where's the vetting? And you live in a world of citizen journalists. Everybody's got a cell phone camera. Ask Carnival Cruise Lines about the Triumph. They learned that lesson, right? Everybody is a citizen journalist. Here's the problem. As Morley Safer once said, I trust citizen journalists as about as much as I trust citizen surgeons. Because there's no vetting. There's nobody out there as a gatekeeper for information and fact-checking. And that's what the industry is up against. That's what you've got to break through. You break through that by maybe starting the conversation on social media, because that's inevitable now, but moving it over to a real face-to-face conversation. Because if you don't do that, you lose. Look, 75% of Americans right now are saying they're planning a trip this year. That's a huge number. You know what it was 3 years ago? 59%. But there's no more an issue about whether Americans are going to travel, or when they're going to travel, or if they're going to travel. Here's the key. How are we going to travel? Can somebody here tell me the fastest growing form of transportation in America right now? Who said train? Sorry. The answer is bus. That's right. Now here's the staggering figure. How many intercity bus lines, we're not talking about municipal bus lines within a city, intercity bus lines are there in America right now? Anybody want to guess? You're not going to believe this number. 3,200. That's in addition to Greyhound, Bolt Bus, and Megabus. There are 3,197 more. Why? Let's do the numbers. If I want to go from New York to Washington, D.C. on the Delta Shuttle, a flight that takes 8 hours to get to LaGuardia and 38 minutes in the air, assuming there's not a ground hold, that fare could be as high as $700 round trip. You can go to Istanbul for that. If I want to take Amtrak, our excuse for a train system in this country, and by the way, I love trains. Amtrak is not doing a good job, and they can do so much better, and they need us, and we need them. But Amtrak's fare on the Acela, their excuse for a high-speed train, by the way, the Acela gets up to about 86 miles an hour for 29 miles. If it hit 86 miles an hour for the 30th mile, it would derail. And the reason is Amtrak doesn't own the tracks. It's owned by the freight lines, which is why Amtrak can never be on time, because they have to pull over to a siding to let some 100-car freight line come, lumber through. So the fare on Amtrak is $300. What's the fare on Bolt Bus? $20. That is a 35-to-1 differential. So it's become an economically viable alternative on trips of under 400 miles. Now, remember I talked about the loss of airline service? Guess what's going to happen next? We saw it happen in Cincinnati when Delta literally closed ComAir. Nobody replaced it. Who do you think is next on the chopping block? No matter what anybody tells you. American Eagle. Because those 50-seat planes don't make money for the airlines anymore. And nobody wants them. Not only that, they are singularly responsible for most of the delays in this country. Why? Because a little 50-seat Captain Skippy plane, I'll wait for it, okay. You've been on those planes, right? The captain talks in 5 octaves higher than normal. We'll be traveling at an altitude of 7 feet, bye. Okay. You know what I really love about those planes? When the flight attendant points out the many safety features on board, there are none. That particular little plane takes up as much gate space as a 747, and it takes up as much radar space as a 747. Robert Crandall, the former chairman of American Airlines, who's a giant in this industry, said that if you could get rid of those planes and replace them with high-speed trains on trips of under 400 miles, there would be, other than weather, no delays in this country. We should be advocating for that. We need a train program in this country. We do. So it's easy to see the solutions. We have to figure out the economic viability of them, which we've done. This is not, rocket scientists. The people in this room, if you're proactive, you have more power than you think you do, because you survived the demise of the old model of travel agents and travel professionals, and basically you're reinventing yourselves. And you're doing it as specialists, which is exactly the way most people travel. I don't go see a podiatrist if my arm hurts me, which is why I use 5 different travel agents, somebody for cruise, somebody for bicycle travel. I'm sure there's a travel agent out there who specializes in one-armed fugitive travel. For those of you who are old enough to remember The Fugitive, thank you. But these are all easy solutions. It starts with a conversation. But don't get seduced by one other thing. Big data. How many people have heard that term? Really? Okay, well, you're hearing it again, or maybe for the first time. Everybody wants big data because they want to mine you M-I-N-E. They want to mind who you are, what you do, what your preferences are. They want to be able to cater to you in a way that rules out all the competition and basically destroys the conversation. Let me give you an example. Airlines change their fares about 250,000 times a day. They've been doing it for years. I get that. But to prove this point about how big data is not helpful to consumers, this is what I did the other day. We did it on CBS. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I went online and tried to book a fare. I was researching a fare from New York to Los Angeles, a popular transcon route. I got a fare of about $500 round trip. I said, I'll think about it. An hour later, I went back online, and the trip was $600. This is at 2 in the morning. Now, the airlines can argue that that's a popular route, and there was enough demand to move that price up because it's the law of supply and demand. I get it. So to prove my point, the next night, this is back in December we started this. The next night I went online at 2 o'clock in the morning and researched a fare from New York to Des Moines, Iowa on a Wednesday in March at 11 in the morning. Not any Easter holiday, no spring break, not a lot of spring breakers going to Des Moines at 11 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday to try to figure out what that fare was. I got a fare of $280. I went back an hour later, it was $370. Now, nobody can make the argument that there were 60,000 demented, crazed Des Moines fans at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get to Des Moines in March at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. What does that mean? That means that they recognized my computer, they knew I was interested, and they knew I came back, and they raised the fare. Now, can I prove it? No. But I can make sure it doesn't happen again. And the way I make sure it doesn't happen again is I can research online, but guess what I do? I come back on another computer, or even better, I come talk to you. So many people have been steered to go online that they not only disenfranchise themselves, they end up spending more money. The bottom line is this. You are the most enviable position right now because you already know this, but I'll tell you again. Travel is the largest industry in the world. It employs 1 out of every 10 people. It is 10% of global GDP. That is staggering. It's not about whether or not I'm going to the Hamptons or not for the weekend. It's so much bigger than that. And you guys are on the forefront of that because you can drive it, you can steer it, you can shape it. The way you predict the future is you invent it. And you invent it as advocates. It's not about the transaction. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about the conversation. And if you want to continue that conversation with me, I'll give you my email, and I answer all emails, by the way. It's easy. I'm the last remaining guy on AOL. I apologize. It's certain habits die hard. It's mastertrav, one word, mastertrav at AOL.com. My website, which, by the way, is free. We update it every 18 hours with news. It's the most imaginative name. We had committee meetings on this, petergreenberg.com. And of course, I hope you'll watch me either on The Travel Detective on public television or on CBS News. Thank you very much.